Agent of the Year award winners. IAB introduced this annual award in 2020, and the purpose of doing this was to recognize rising stars in the independent agent community in our three states, Pennsylvania, Maryland, and Delaware. Really to recognize those that are bringing everything that we're looking for when we talk about youth in this industry. It's part of our broader commitment at IAB to finding and fostering diverse new talent for the industry. We'll be talking about that a little bit throughout today's panel session. We're joined in this perpetuation effort, the very important perpetuation effort in this industry by many other collaborators. But most importantly, and those that we want to highlight today are the sponsors of the 2025 IAB Young Agent Award and Conference. We highlighted them in the opening slide, the carriers that have through their generous support, really allowed IA&B to conduct our conference and to conduct this award annually since 2020. So give me just a minute to recognize those carriers who have been generous supporters of this program. Chubb, EMC Insurance, Erie Insurance, IA&B Service Group, Penn National Insurance, Progressive, Risk and Insurance Education Alliance, and Westfield Bank. Again, thanks to these sponsors for their support of what IMB is trying to do in generating new talent in the industry. So, with regard to the award winners, we announced these three individuals at our Young Agent Conference in October. If you're a not young agent and weren't at the conference, we would love to see you next year. The Young Agent Conference grows each and every year. The feedback for this conference that we just had in October was incredible. So a really good conference where we bring together young agents, train them, educate them, and more importantly, allow them to network with fellow young agents. So it was at that conference that we announced these award winners. They're also featured in our November Primary Agent magazine. So if you haven't seen it yet, look for that where we highlight each of these three award winners. But without further ado, let me announce them to you here. First, from Pennsylvania, Jimi Honochick of the YMI Agency. From Maryland, Danielle Weber from Maury, Donnelly, and Parr. And finally, from Delaware, Hunter McHugh of the McHugh Insurance Group. So, again, my congratulations to you three as the IA&B Young Agent of the Year award winners for your respective states. We're excited about this group. I've had opportunity to work with them for the last several months. It is an impressive group, which you're going to find out here shortly. The purpose of this panel discussion is for you to meet them a little more, to hear about industry topics and their impact and feedback on that. And we want this to be as interactive as possible. So if you have any questions or follow-ups of this group, please submit via the chat feature, and I'll be monitoring for any chat questions that may come through. But with that, let's start with a general question for the three of you. Same question for the three of you, and it's a common one that we ask all our members, but we're very interested in the young agent perspective to this. And it is, what challenges did you face when starting in the insurance industry, and how did you overcome those challenges? So, Hunter, if you don't mind, we'll start with you on this one. Challenges starting in the industry, how did you overcome those?
Sure. So first off, thank you everyone for joining and congrats again to Danielle and Jimmy. I got into the industry right out of college, and it was kind of on a whim. Wasn't something that was necessarily on my radar. And I think one of the challenges being 22, 23 years old, trying to get into the insurance industry is one, trying to navigate all there is to learn about the industry in a way that you can actually be a valuable resource to your clients and the people that you're working with on a daily basis. And so you're trying to, okay, how can I, not only start to make relationships, but also have an impact with clients in a short amount of time, while also trying to learn the ins and outs in the industry. We've all taken the licensing exam. We know just about how helpful that is to the actual insurance knowledge we need on a day-to-day basis. And so For me, trying to overcome that was, and again, this is kind of the advantage to starting at an earlier age, was spending the extra time learning the actual nuances and specific parts of the industry that you need to know that will allow you to be able to help people, making sure that spend the extra time, whether it be at night or on the weekends, to try and surround that. I liken it a lot to when I played college sports. In football, I was never the biggest guy on the field, but I prided myself on being somebody who knew where I was supposed to be, where everybody else was supposed to be, and the person across from me where they were trying to get to. And I do think that in our industry, knowledge is the number one thing that gives you such a great advantage, whether you're competing against other agents or just simply trying to be as good of a team member as you can to the people that you work with. So I would say, hands down, the most challenging part getting into the industry was trying to surround the education piece and getting the knowledge that was necessary to be an actually valuable resource.
Hunter, just a quick follow-up to that is where have you found, and you touched on it, but to elaborate a little bit, where have you found that knowledge? Is it one spot? Is it multitude of places? So somebody new coming in the industry may be a little overwhelmed, but are there resources out there to get that knowledge easily?
Without a doubt. Now, I would say there, for me, to keep a long story short, for me, there were two separate parts of the education. I started as a direct writer and I got that education there. Coming into the independent space 3 years ago and starting a scratch agency, it was as if I was starting over. And I will say, and Jason and everybody at IAB can attest to this, I have leaned on not just IAB, but other different, groups, professional groups. But for me personally, IA&B offers all of the resources that are needed really to try and accommodate getting that knowledge, whether it's one-off classes on specific topics or the entire courses that are available through IA&B. Obviously, a tremendous way to try and get caught up in a short amount of time. Everybody in every course is expert knowledge from people who have been in that position, who have done the job, instead of somebody who's just always taught it. So there's plenty of places to find it, but in my opinion, the easiest and the most effective way to find it, truthfully, is through the IAB and the different programs available.
That wasn't meant as a selfish plug. I appreciate that.
But
We'll
it's the
touch
truth.
on some of those. Yeah, but it is a welcoming industry, and I talked about the networking that went on at our Young Agent Conference. So we see agents learning from agents. We see mentorships going out there. The carriers are a good resource. So certainly, as an industry, I agree with you. Education is a key to getting over some of these challenges. But it is an industry that is friendly and open, and I think there are resources. So I appreciate the plug for IMB, but there are other ample opportunities as well. So thanks. Danielle, same question to you. What specific challenges did you have getting into this fun industry that we're in, and how did you overcome them?
Yeah, so honestly, like Hunter, it was the education piece. There was so much to learn. And as Hunter already mentioned, the test didn't do justice for us to get out there in the industry. But really, I think it was about having a mindset of, I might not know everything, but I'm willing to help, and just having a willingness to learn, a willingness to research the answer. I did a lot of research, calling the carrier directly just to find out, what do we need to do in this situation? Unfortunately, sometimes you do learn the hard way. And I have those examples as well. And it was really just having the humility to, admit I was wrong, apologize, and to just learn so that those mistakes don't happen again. I think that's any industry. You're going to have that learning curve where you don't know what you don't know. And you just pray every day that you don't find out the hard way. But when you do, you get back up, brush your knees off, and keep going. Um, Hunter already mentioned this as well, but I think it's also just being resourceful and knowing who to contact is really just building that list, whether it's friends in the industry, other colleagues who have more information, who have more experience. Really, you don't know what you don't know, so asking really great questions. My background was in psychology, so that's what they teach us in psychology is to listen well and to ask really great questions. So That's what I did. And I wasn't afraid to ask the quote stupid questions. I would preface my questions with, I know this is a rookie question, but I am a rookie and I need to know. So just not being afraid to ask questions, knowing who to contact, and really just being willing to learn and to help.
And Hunter touched on something I think is important that through education you can distinguish yourself or set yourself apart. Have you found that? Have you used education? You talked about how you can learn, but do you think there's a role where for somebody who's a go-getter can use education to really set themselves apart from the field when you're breaking into a new field?
Absolutely. I mean, there's always something to learn, but if you are being proactive and getting, a water hose of information and education before you need to apply it, you're already setting yourself ahead of the game. So being proactive, getting the designations, attending classes, and you might think, oh, I already know this, but people can present it in a different way or offer a different perspective for the same piece of information that and that really can help and spark other opportunities and really I think the word is click. It can just help things really click and help you understand things, or they give you an example. Taking courses where they talk about claims and how claims are handled, I think is just a phenomenal resource because we don't always get to see that on the agency end. So definitely be proactive, get that education, get those designations. You don't even know what opportunities lie ahead unless you take that step towards them.
Yeah, I say it all the time. Learning never stops in this industry. Certainly important for young agents, and I truly believe a way to distinguish yourself. But learning just never stops. Always changing, always evolving industry. So what you say resonates certainly with the new young agents coming in, but with any agent out there that it's a way to distinguish yourself as a good, true, independent insurance agent. So great, thanks. Jimi, to you, same question, challenges and how you particularly overcame them.
So I think the way I overcame them is going to be very similar to what you heard from Danielle and Hunter, but I would say it's a different problem that I had. So this is my third career. I worked in TV out in LA. I worked in finance at a large wealth firm. And then this is a family business, and I was joining a family business. And the thing I knew right off the bat was I needed to earn the trust of the team. And how do I do that? It's not coming in and saying, hey, look at all my accolades, look what I've done in my career already. This is going to be great. It's the word that Danielle used, which was humility. And I think I had to make it clear to everyone that I don't know, and they've been doing this for 20 plus years. They are the experts here, and leaning on them and being comfortable to be humble. And so it was working, side by side with our personal lines manager to basically in an assistant role as I, helped her and learned our systems and learned the way we did things and absorbed her knowledge and was willing to learn from her and not put, my big mouth in there. Just listen to her, which is hard for me to do, but just kind of listen to her and observe and, slowly build her trust and then build the trust of the team. And so it was by asking those questions. And so I think I would echo what Danielle and Hunter said is if you're starting in the industry, no one expects you to know anything, honestly. We know that this is new to you. So don't feel like you need to prove yourself that way. Be open, be humble, be a sponge, be asking the questions. Those are the people who, in my organization, I look at as the real, go-getters, the real people that I'm excited about and invested in is the ones who admit to not knowing but are looking to know more. So that would be my advice, similar to Danielle and Hunter. Just be open and be curious. Always be curious.
Jimi, that's interesting. I mean, certainly family-owned agency and in the history there, sometimes the assumption is that you just sort of fall into that. But it's interesting to hear you say that you're very humble. I don't know all the answers, despite being you would expect that maybe somebody knew the industry, and you were to an extent. But would you agree that being a family-run agency and being another generation that doesn't make things easier.
No, absolutely. It presents its own challenges for sure. I like to say my dad and I are exact opposites on everything, but it brings us, I say, like, if I would be here and he would be here, together we are up here. And so, it's being able to listen to their point of view, again, kind of being open and realizing that you don't have all the answers.
Yeah, complementary, I believe, is what we're looking there, feed off each other and do that. So interesting perspective. And it bears, noting we have a very diverse group here. Hunter McHugh is a startup agency, Jimi, as we just talked about, family agency, and Danielle, very large, multi-location agency. So this panel is as diverse as IMB membership, and I find that very interesting that there is no one set model. You can be successful in any of those models, as we see with IMB membership. So we'll drill into that a little bit more. So some specific questions and tying into what I just mentioned, we'll start with you, Hunter. As somebody who started an agency from scratch, what would you tell a new producer about prospecting and building a book of business from scratch? What advice would you give somebody to doing that, where really from the ground floor, starting that it can be done. We see it, and we're trying to promote that at IMB. It doesn't necessarily mean coming into an existing agency. There are startups out there that are successful. You were one of them, but somebody thinking about that, considering that, what advice would you give to them how to build that book?
It's one bite at a time, honestly. I mean, truthfully, I had 7 years of experience prior to starting Scratch, but when I came back and opened this agency, I had done zero business in Delaware, where we're located. So I had no relationships to go back to. And it was kind of that daunting position again of, okay, well, how do I get from zero to where my goals are? And the prospecting piece has certainly gotten more challenging over the years. The pandemic certainly didn't help. My primary way of prospecting in the past had always been in person. I was a door knocker, somebody that would walk in. I find it's much easier to create relationships that way. But at the same time, it's more time consuming. It's a more challenging route to go as well. But if you think at least my approach into prospecting and list building starts with just knowing who it is that I want to work with and truly knowing who it is that I can bring value to. So any producer out there who's thinking about, okay, well, how do I go about prospecting? How can I grow my book of business? Start with knowing what you know best. And maybe that's one specific industry. Maybe you have a broader knowledge of multiple markets. And coupling that with what your agency does well, right? Where does your agency fit into that? And once you've got a clear understanding of where it is that you want to go and what it is that you can offer, because let's face it, at the end of the day, we all essentially offer the same product. It's just a matter of how you communicate it and execute it. Then once you figure that out, then you've got to determine, and everybody's different, but a prospecting plan that's going to work for you. For some people, that's purely via email. For some people, that's going and shaking hands at every networking event that they can get into. For other people, it's door knocking. There's a number of ways. But big picture, something that would apply to everybody is that, especially when you're first getting started, you've got to cast an extremely wide net, right? You've got to try and capture as many different prospects as you can in your efforts. And it's a numbers game, right? So when you cast that wide net, and you start to play the numbers game and you continue to see it through. Few and far between are the people that you're going to meet on the first meeting that are going to turn into long-term clients. But at the end of the day, if you cast a wide enough net, you shake enough hands, you make enough introductions, it will show itself. But I mentioned this when we had this previous discussion. It's not going to happen overnight. So as much as you need to figure out your plan along the way and how you're going to execute it, your mindset is another piece that is extremely important to have very much dialed into the fact that it's not going to happen tomorrow. It's not going to happen in 6 months necessarily, but the long game in the insurance industry, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, That is where you'll see the real opportunity and the real fruits of your labor from trying to build your book of business. For us in year one, it was a slower start than I anticipated. Year two and year three were twice what I projected when I initially put together the business plan. So there is a light at the end of the tunnel, but it has to be unrelenting work to get there and building your book.
Two words I wrote down from what you're saying, and I couldn't agree more. Persistent and the niche market. Something that we've been promoting to our members is find that niche, find something that you know well and can speak to. And if you do that, you can write outside your environment. It could be a 50 state endeavor if you are well versed on whatever it may be. The nice thing about our industry, it's not discretionary spending that you're trying to sell. Everybody needs insurance. You spoke pandemic. We are pandemic proof. Insurance continued and insurance grows by the billions. We see stats that year over year, the insurable risk out there grow by the billions. So there is a market, but I like what you said, Hunter, is be persistent, find your little corner and go after it. You've succeeded. We've seen many like you that have done it. So it can be done out there. And we want to relay that to whoever's listening that there is a good marketplace for it. So good. Thanks. Danielle, your turn. Different question for you. A little unique as an account manager in a very large agency. How are you so successful? What tips, tricks, and tools do you have in account management? And then related to that, how can agency leadership in a large agency like yours, how can agency leadership best support customer service and the client management team, which is just as important as the producers out there? It's one thing to find that new business, but just as important is keeping that and servicing that business. So that's your role. What are some tricks and tools that you use in doing that, and how does management support you in that?
Sure. So, first, a team. I don't know how people do it without a team. I have an incredible team here at MDP. We, some members of the team have one portion of the insurance that they do. One person does our billing for us. Another can do mortgagee changes or endorsement changes. Things that take a lot of time, but another person on the team can help with it because it's not client facing, it's behind the scenes work. So really delegating and having a really great team to help with their strengths is really, I don't know how people do it without a team. Yeah. My teammate actually before starting this sent me a message and was like, "You go, girl." And I was like, "Yes, this is what team is all about. Just little, encouragement." And she's fantastic at that. So definitely having a team, and then relationships with not just your team, but also with carriers, and with, agencies that support us, associations rather. Having those relationships really helps with our, knowledge base and offering, tips and tricks for us as well and doing the legwork for us. With one of our carriers, our rep constantly sends us an email every week with updates, things you need to know. And I think that's just so important to have that relationship so that I'm not constantly researching, but it's, top of mind and the email is sent. Definitely continued professional development to keep learning about industry changes or best practices, and not just professional development, but personal development. I think it is so important to always know yourself, to know how you work best, your strengths and weaknesses. I tell people all the time that if you don't have ADHD coming into this industry, you will get it. You will learn it, so to speak, because we are constantly multitasking. We are constantly getting new things that come in. So you really need to know, what is going to work best for you. If you need to block out time, what's a distraction, how you work best, how you work most efficiently. Going back to, or to another idea for personal development. And this is kind of a somber story, but we are client facing and a client did call in and they were going through a divorce. I recently went through one as well. And for those of you that don't know, whether it's good or bad, it is still a very hard thing to go through. And he had called in to talk about his insurance, was able to, lend a listening ear. And then 2 weeks later, we had a claim come through that our client had taken his life. And it was really hard to get that claim. So, and I share this as a reminder that we work with people. We are very much humans helping humans in our industry. And as a client manager, talking to the clients, producers do as well, but we get those calls of people going through hardships. Yes, we get the good calls where they just had a baby, or, they just got married, or they just got a car, buying a home. Those are fun calls, but we get the hard calls too. So I just, having that, being able to have empathy with people, if it's not a natural gift, but like working on it, there's resources out there. I know I just started taking a course. It's called Project 55. And it just helps with mental illness. It helps you understand mental illness and how to just work with people who might be going through a crisis. And as we all know, mental health we're in a crisis across the board, every industry. So really just understanding that we're working with people. Life is messy, life is hard, and just having that understanding is really important. Going off of that, as far as leadership, so in our office, it's broken down into managers, and each manager manages their team. My manager is fantastic. She's very approachable. She checks in regularly and always willing to listen, to help. I think that's really important because at the end of the day, yes, our job is to help people, but if you have a team that feels unsupported or that nobody cares about them, it's really hard to invest in somebody else when you don't feel supported in that way. So I think my manager does a fantastic job of making all of us feel really supported, checking in, giving us feedback, appreciation. And then in our whole agency, we really utilize teams to help with that as well. So we can talk to people all day long, when we're working in different offices and virtually, we can still stay connected, and even just, sharing, wow, just had a really hard call, or, hey, really struggling with figuring this out. Can somebody help me? What am I missing here? And I think it's that connection piece in a highly relational industry, connection is really going to make the difference with our team and with our clients and with management as well. And then also just, allowing the professional and personal development. And I just think MDP and my manager do a really good job with allowing that. Just this morning, my boss sent something out that was like, this might be good for you to attend. So just really everyone looking out for each other and helping each other. It's the best kind of environment.
Yeah, you have said team environment, but I liken it to culture, and it's a culture within an agency that results in everything that you just said. Daniel, I love sharing the news. It's been a very good year for you because you also were the National CSR of the Year award winner. And I think what they recognized there was your passion for this industry and your passion for the clients. And I think that is critical to the independent agent community is we need to do that. To Hunter's point, persistence, he was referencing getting the business, finding it, blanketing, but once you get it, you have to have that passion to keep it because somebody else is out there trying to get it. And the way you maintain and the way you keep that retention number high is the passion that you've exhibited and what you've just said as a tool and trick for why you're such a good account manager. So, and that likens back to culture. Agency culture leads to that. So, a great answer, and I think brings everything full circle as to the success you've seen this year. But overall, where independent agents really can find success is that human element and driving that home. So, thank you for that answer.
Mhm.
All right, Jimmy, your question is, and this is pertinent to you as YMI continues to look to expand both with offices and with staff. You're on that drive to become bigger. What can agencies do to best recruit and retain talent? So it's similar to policyholders. If you have good talent, you've got to keep them in order to keep the battle going as you're trying to expand. And how do you set up? So Danielle shared, as an account manager, what she looks for, but how do you set up your team for success? So somebody looking to, at a minimum, maintain but grow where it makes sense. How are you going to recruit and retain talent?
Yeah, thank you. This is probably my favorite topic to talk about. So you picked a good one, Jason. To me, the C word you use, culture, is it's one of our four C's. We have four C's, and they're like our key partnerships, and it's carriers, obviously, our clients, of course, our community, and culture is the fourth one because it is at the end of the day, what drives the rest of them, I would say, is the team. And that was what I realized really quickly was, I'm one person. I'm not going to be servicing a good enough amount of clients in a day to really make a difference. I am unimportant in this organization. It's the team that's important. And so I realized really quickly I had to build the best team to be the best agency. And so that has become my main focus is how do we acquire and, retain that talent. And I think it goes to priorities, wherever your priority is, that's what you're going to spend your time doing. That's what you're going to be focused on. And I have prioritized building that team. And so, we've had an intern every summer that I've been here. I go to the recruiting events on campus. And I think you need to treat it like you would if you're a producer or if you're an account manager. Like you don't just sit there and let the good ones go by and hope that they come to your table. I'm I'm aggressive at these. You can tell, people's energy in the room, who's confident, who has the energy, who's going to do well in your organization. And I don't let them walk by. I say, whoa, 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 like why are you walking past the insurance booth? Do you think we're boring? And that's an icebreaker right there. And we've had a lot of success at getting people in the organization that way. And so once you get them, that's one part of it. But to your point, how do you retain them? And I think it's all kind of feeds off of itself. So getting them in is important. Then you need to do things that they want to do. So invest in them, of course. Like we always, invest in education and making sure that everyone is working towards a designation if they don't have one already. You got to get your CEs. Let's work towards a goal. Let's get you your CISR. Let's get you your CIC. So we're always investing in them. But we are also trying to make it a fun place to work. Like insurance doesn't have to be boring. And I don't think the industry has done a good job representing itself as anything but boring. And so we are trying to do that. And it's doing things. Actually, I was just having an email back and forth with an agent owner who I think is on this call about talent. And I said, there is the salary, there are the benefits, but then there's that other thing that I'm happy to invest in that doesn't, show up in their paycheck. And that's there's events that they go to and I'm going to sponsor them going to those. And there's dinners and there's galas and there's things like this that gets them out in the community, but gets them together in a setting outside of work. And now they're bonding and they're having a good time. They're meeting the community. And so, we make sure that they do that. They have fun. We put the pictures up on social media. And now is where we get back to the full cycle. Like if you're looking at YMI, you see that we're out at these events. You see that we're having fun. Well, I could go to this, stuffy insurance agency that I interviewed with, or look at YMI. They seem like a fun place to work. And so it all is a feedback loop, but it's something that you have to prioritize, you have to focus on, and you have to invest in if you want to get the best.
Give me a segue to that, and now is a selfish IMB plug, but and that is our Insuring Career Certification Program, our
Yes.
ICCT program. And I bring it up only because all three of you touched on some of the components to that individually, but you talked about how the licensing exam doesn't teach insurance. Well, we recognize that. So the ICC program is Insurance 101 and really gives a good backdrop on insurance so that you're best prepared to pass the exam. But that when you come out of that, you have a very good foundational experience in insurance. To Danielle's point, it teaches soft business skills, how to, properly converse either via phone or text or what have you, how to write proposals, do those types of things. So to Hunter's point, how to deal with the carriers and as a scratch agency starting up. So we've heard everything you said, Jimmy, and have tried to package that together in a program and really promote the industry as one that can be lucrative, flexible, room for advancement. So while you as an agency are doing it, if the state association also has your back, is that helpful to know that there's a resource in addition to what you're doing?
I have two agents going through it right now. So yes, it's something where I took a look at it and I said, I want to invest in the right people, right? I want to get the right people. I, like everyone here, that ADHD comment really kind of rung with me. I'm doing so many things all the time that I know I'm going to do a disservice to these new people if I'm the one training them. I don't have the time. It's going to be bad, frankly. But ICCP is this program where they can they can learn, like you said, not just the insurance skills, but sort of those soft business skills. And it was a no-brainer. So we have two people who, I'm always looking for the soft skills. Do they present well? Will they do well, talking to clients? Do they have a good work ethic? We have two people right now who have that. They just don't have the insurance background or necessarily the business background. And ICCP was really a no-brainer. And so they're both going through it right now. They haven't taken their test yet, so I can't say what the verdict is, but I've quizzed them and they seem pretty confident. So it's doing
Yeah.
well.
I have all the confidence in them and in the process. And I'd mentioned this is a pillar of IMB, just new blood in this industry. It's good for everybody, and we're invested. And it's through feedback from you guys and other members that we do this. So yeah, I appreciate that angle. We have about 10 minutes left. I want to finish with a general question for everybody and sort of compare and contrast. It's an important one, and something also that IMB is monitoring and based on feedback from members constantly. So curious to hear your take on this, but this is an industry of change. And I personally believe the next 10 years are going to be even heightened change. It just with technology and AI and climate-based change, whatever it may be, there's going to be changes. So for each of you, what changes do you anticipate in this industry, and how can independent agents, whether you're a producer or an account manager or an owner of the agency, how can you best respond to these changes that are going to be presented to our industry? Hunter, let me start with you on this one. What changes do you see out there, and in your sense as a owner of a startup agency, how do you think you can best react to those and respond to them?
Sure. So, I there's plenty that's going on out there. The number one change that I see, and kind of the change that I saw happening a few years ago that led to where I am now, or starting an agency, was the huge shift in the insurance space from the perspective of now we've got so much involvement from private equity firms and a lot of mergers and acquisitions, right? So that was part one for me, where growing up, it felt like insurance was the old way of doing things, right? Everybody knew a guy and they, were friends with that guy or girl. And there was real relationship based, business being done. And as things have transitioned and the insurance space has changed over the last few years with all of the M&A, I think it's led to a tremendous opportunity for people who are getting started in a producer role, people who are maybe interested in starting their own agency or coming into an agency and trying to change things by keeping those same old traditional values, but then coupling it with all of the other advances and things that are changing just in our world in general. I run an agency. It's myself and a part-time assistant. And we manage over 150 business clients and a couple hundred personal lines clients, none of which would have been possible without the technology that we have, the ability to set up automated processes, the different systems that can be put into place. So I think for us, for me personally, it's trying to stay up to date with everything that's out there from a technology perspective and finding a way to utilize that to make myself more efficient while also improving the experience for our clients to, for me, selfishly, free up time for myself to have the work-life balance that this industry can afford you and also be able to run a business and grow our business and help the clients that we work with. So I think those two factors kind of play into one another and really speak a lot to the opportunity that's out there for people who are getting into it or who are looking to grow in it.
Great. Excellent. Danielle, your take on changes coming and perhaps from your unique perspective as account manager, what changes are you seeing and how do you think we can best respond to those?
Yeah, I think a lot of people are starting to work with, AI and automation of things. Honestly, I used to be afraid of it, but now I'm so excited about it because to what Hunter said, if we can really partner with it and we can use it to help us have more time to invest in our relationships with our clients and our families. And the Risk Alliance just launched Allybot, and I think that is a fantastic program. It's like an insurance chat GBT. It's fantastic. And I think just really, being proactive about things and not, waiting until the rest of the world is on board and then we'll get on board, but really, finding ways to streamline processes with AI and use that to our advantage so that we can be more client facing, which is the most important in our industry. I think that would just be extremely helpful. And then kind of what I said in the beginning for one of the challenges was the learning and just being willing to show up and do what needs to be done. So I think just having that mindset of we're going to show up and we're going to help people, and that might look different day to day. But just be aware of like the needs of our industry and how those are changing the needs of our clients, and then just changing what we do to better meet the needs of our clients.
I think that's a great with technology, we can either bury our head in the sand or look to embrace it. And too often industries see these as challenges or disruptors or threats. But one thing this industry is good at is learning new things and utilizing it. So I think that is the approach we have to take, and appreciate you saying that because it's essential for this industry, and I think there can be growth and benefit from it. So I think you're spot on with that. Jimi, conclude this for us. What changes are you seeing in the coming years, and what impact will those have? How are you looking to respond to them?
I will say I hate going third because Hunter and Danielle are so smart and they have great answers, and I basically just echo them. But we have agreement on sort of, AI is obviously here and is coming. You've got all sorts of technology changes. And to me, like the name of the game is scale. And I think you're seeing scale is really starting to play a role. I think as we come out of the hard market, those who adjusted the quickest, at least what we've seen, are those carriers who are larger, who have the scale, who have the data and are using the data. And so we've got some of those carriers who are, reducing rates at this point, while we have some of our slower carriers who don't have the data and don't have the scale, who are still increasing rates. And so I think scale is important on that end. I think it's important on our end, and that's why you're seeing, to Hunter's point, a lot of the M&A. But I think what's important in all of that scale is, and Hunter, hit on this, is not losing your local identity. A lot of the PE coming in, the M&A, they report back to Central, whereas we are still boots on the ground. We are still very involved in the community. We are still out there shaking hands, and that's something that isn't going to go away. I actually have a presentation tomorrow that I was preparing on the insurance industry, and it was interesting. Like direct and digital, these channels haven't taken real share from the independent agent. In fact, we've continued to grow, and I think it's because, especially commercial, especially on your home, like these are huge assets. These are, the biggest assets in people's lives. and you're not going to trust that to a digital or a a direct option. So we have that advantage. We just need to make sure we're using it and to use our scale to better those relationships. So it's investing in the local things, it's going to the local things, but it's having the scale to matter at those local things. So I think that's really important. And the other thing, just with all the scale and the digital and the AI, is you've got a lot of snake oil salesmen out there who are, pitching a shiny object, and you have to be able to decipher what is important, what's going to drive my business forward, and what is just a shiny object that's going to distract me and cost me a lot of money.
Yeah. And I'm asked the same question you're being asked for your presentation tomorrow constantly by carriers, regulators, those in the industry. What's the state of the independent agent? Independent agent is going nowhere. There'll be webinars like this 50 years from now with new young talent coming in. I'm confident of it. It's going to look different. There's certainly consolidation, but with that, there's efficiencies and all of that. So when it comes, you're right, Jimmy, when it comes to commercial risks or somebody who has a home with 2 or 3 autos, you're not buying that online. The direct writers have had no inroads. There's a certain segment that shrinks, independent agents going up. So there's changes. There's no doubt. We've got to recognize them, adapt to them. But this industry is extremely strong and will continue to be strong. And really, you three are a testament to that, that as we continue to bring in talent like what's exhibited here on this panel, we're in good hands and we're in good shape with this industry. So with that, I want to thank you three for your time here today. Again, my congratulations for your award as the Young Agent of the Year for your respective state. A very impressive slate of winners this year. So congratulations. You're not off the hook. You'll continue to be stewards of IA&B's push for youth and new blood in the industry, and we'll be utilizing you. So members, keep an eye out for these three as they are stewards of our movement towards really bringing in new talent to this industry. In the season of giving thanks, I want to thank all our IA&B members and sponsors for all of your support throughout the year. It has been extremely meaningful and allows us to do what we're trying to do, whether it's with young agent, new talent, any initiative at IA&B. So thank you for your support. Want to wish everybody happy holidays and look for continued news and resources coming out of IA&B in 2026. It will be a fun year. It'll be a busy year, a good year. But please look to IA&B to support your efforts in the independent agent channel. So with that, I want to conclude today's panel. Thanks, everyone. Happy holidays and have a great day. See ya.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.